Welcome to Web Development with Bootstrap-Vue. My name is Heather Rahman. I have been working in IT since 2011. I started off as a web developer in PHP and worked my way up to full-stack web development. I have a master's degree in telecom system and currently working as DevOps and software engineer for a reputed software company. I have an excellent command over JavaScript frameworks such as Vue.js, React.js, and Node.js. Getting started with Bootstrap-Vue. Section 1. In this section, we will take the first step towards Bootstrap-Vue and Vue.js. We will also set up Bootstrap-Vue using webpack and Vue CLI on our local machine. We will also learn how we can import individual components and directives that Bootstrap-Vue offers. By the end of this section, we will be familiar with build variants, browser support, and the tooling support. Designing components. Section 2. In this section, we will start off by designing form components. We will also start creating a landing page for a web application using the layouts. We will also utilize the tables, tabs, and the progress components. In the end of this section, we will work with the layouts and the grid system, designing with Bootstrap-Vue directives. Section 3. In this section, we will start with Bootstrap-Vue Popovers. We will also learn how we can use scroll spy to spy on container elements. In this section, we will also learn how we can create custom tooltips in Bootstrap-Vue. By the end of this section, we will learn how to render router links and understand the spacing classes. And finally, we will learn some third-party form validations and how can we use them with Bootstrap-Vue. In short, these videos contain things that you are guaranteed to learn sooner or later. So let's get started. Getting started with Bootstrap-Vue. Section 1. In this section, we will take the first step towards Bootstrap-Vue and Vue.js. We will also set up Bootstrap-Vue using webpack and Vue CLI on our local machine. We will also learn how we can import individual components and directives that Bootstrap-Vue offers. By the end of this section, we will be familiar with build variants, browser support, and the tooling support. First step towards Bootstrap-Vue and Vue.js. In this video, we will have an overview of Bootstrap-Vue and Vue.js. Let's start with the overview of Vue.js. Vue.js is a front-end library which is used to build single-page applications. Vue.js is a progressive framework, meaning that if you have an existing server-side application, you are able to plug Vue.js into one part of your application for more richer and interactive experience. Like most of the other frameworks, Vue.js allows you to split your application into reusable components. Each component has its own HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. To get started with Vue.js, you can go to their website vuejs.org. Under Installation tab, you can install it by using npm. By typing npm install Vue, you can also install it by using the official CLI by going to cli.vuejs.org. Under the Installation tab, you will see how you can install Vue using CLI. And you can create your Vue project using Vue create and the project name. For the overview, I will choose default. Once the project is created, move into the directory and run the project by typing npm run serve. You can access your project on the localhost port 8080. Now coming to the overview of Bootstrap-Vue. Bootstrap plus Vue is used to build responsive mobile-first projects on web using Vue.js and the world's most popular front-end CSS library, Bootstrap 4. Bootstrap-Vue provides one of the most comprehensive implementation of Bootstrap v4 components and grid system available for Vue.js 2.5 plus. To get started with Bootstrap-Vue, we can go to their documentation that is available on bootstrap-vue.js.org. In the next video, we will learn how to set up Bootstrap-Vue using Webpack and Vue CLI. Setting up Bootstrap-Vue using Webpack and Vue CLI. In this video, we will set up Bootstrap-Vue on our local machine using Webpack and also Vue CLI. Let's start by using Webpack. If you are using Module Bundle, you may prefer to directly include the package into your project. To get started, we will use npm to get the latest version of Vue.js, Bootstrap-Vue, and Bootstrap 4. Here in my terminal, I will use npm to install Bootstrap-Vue and Bootstrap by typing command npm I Vue Bootstrap-Vue and Bootstrap. Once these three packages are installed, we can go to our Vue project that we created in the previous video. So let's open our code editor and import Bootstrap-Vue. Here in our main.js file, I will import Bootstrap-Vue. And then I will let Vue know to explicitly use Bootstrap-Vue. Now we can import the CSS files for Bootstrap and Bootstrap-Vue. Now let's go ahead and set up Bootstrap-Vue using Vue CLI. We can set up Vue using CLI. We have Vue CLI 2 and Vue CLI 3. So let's get started with Vue CLI 2. Vue CLI 2 use templates to create Vue projects. Here we have two Bootstrap Vue CLI templates available. The first one is Webpack Simple, which is used to quickly scaffold for a proof of concept or a small application. Another template is a Webpack, which is used for larger production-ready template with more options. To set up Bootstrap-Vue using CLI 2, we will first ensure that we have Vue-CLI installed. So let's go to our terminal and make sure that Vue CLI is installed and up to date by typing command npm I-g space Vue-CLI, where I stands for install and -g stands for global installation. Once Vue-CLI is installed, we can go ahead and create a new project by using Webpack-Simple template. I will first create a new directory. Then I will move into that directory. To create a new Bootstrap-Vue project, I will type command vue init bootstrap-vue / using Webpack-Simple template and then space my project name. Now the project is created, I will move into that project and install all the dependencies by typing command npm install. And then finally, to run this project, I will type npm run dev. As you can see, it states that the project is running on localhost port 8080. As you can see, our project is running and we have created our first Bootstrap-Vue project using Vue CLI 2. Unlike V2, Vue CLI 3 does not use templates. As I already have installed Vue CLI 3, I will go ahead and create a new Vue project. To create a new Vue project, I will use the command Vue create and the project name. When moving from Vue CLI 2 to Vue CLI 3, make sure you uninstall the Vue CLI 2 and then reinstall the Vue CLI 3. Let's go ahead with the default setting. Now once the project is created, move into the project directory. Now here install Bootstrap-Vue using npm. Now I would like to start our application by typing npm run serve. Now that our application is successfully hosted on localhost port 8080, I would like to update my main.js file by importing the Bootstrap-Vue. So let's go to our code editor. First, I will import the Bootstrap-Vue by typing import Bootstrap-Vue from Bootstrap-Vue. Then I will import bootstrap.css and bootstrap-vue.css. Once those are imported, I will let Vue know to explicitly use Bootstrap-Vue. Now let's go to our browser and access our project on the localhost port 8080. In the next video, we will be importing Bootstrap-Vue individual components and directives. Importing Bootstrap-Vue individual components and directives. In this video, we will learn how we can import individual components and directives that Bootstrap-Vue offers into our Vue project. If you would like to only pull a specific component or a set of components, you can do this by directly importing those components. For example, let's import a Bootstrap model component. You can do this by typing import bmodel from Bootstrap-Vue path to their model component. Similarly, you can import the model directives. And then to register them with Vue, you can use Vue.component. Similarly for directive. You can also import component groups and directives as Vue plugins by importing the component group or directive directory. Let's start by importing the layout components such as b-container, b-row, or b-column. We can do this by typing import. Inside the bracket, we can state layout and then provide the path to the components. Similarly, you can do this for models and code. Let's also try out a directive such as scrollsby. When importing as plugins, all subcomponents and relative directives are imported in most cases. When importing b-nav, all the nav-steric subcomponents are also included, as well as all drop-down subcomponents. In the next video, we will learn how to choose the best variant for your build environment, and will also get familiar with the browser support and the tooling support. Build variants, browser support, and tooling support. In this video, we will learn about the build variants and a browser support for the CSS and JavaScript, and tooling support in the Visual Studio Code Editor. Let's start with build variants. Choosing the best variant for your build environment helps you minimize the bundle size of your project. If your bundle supports the ES modules, they will be automatically preferred over the CommonJS. For variants, we have ES module, ESM module, CommonJS2, and UMD, ES module, and ESM modules environments are set up on Webpack 2, where the common.js supports the environment of Webpack 1 only, where UMD is for browser environments. Coming to browser support, Bootstrap Vue is to be used with Bootstrap 4, CSS or SCSS only. Bootstrap supports the latest stable releases of all major browsers and platforms. On Windows, Bootstrap support Internet Explorer 10 and 11 or Microsoft Edge. Bootstrap Vue is written in Vue.js, so it is mostly up to your project and bundler which browsers are supported. If you want to support older versions of Internet Explorer or Android and iOS devices, you may want to use Babel Polyfill. We will install Babel Polyfill using npm by typing npm install at babel/polyfill. Once it is installed, then you can import it in your main.js file by typing import at babel/polyfill. If you are using Visual Studio Code as your text editor, Bootstrap Vue has auto-completion for your component attributes available when using Vuetutor extension. It provides syntax highlighting, snippet, linting error and checking, formatting, auto-completion, and also helps with debugging. We can install Vuetutor from Visual Studio Marketplace. As you can see, Vuetutor is installed as an extension on my Visual Studio Code text editor. This is it for this video. In the next section, we will start designing components. Designing Components, Section 2. In this section, we will start off by designing form components. We will also start creating a landing page for a web application using the layouts. We will also utilize the tables, tabs, and the progress components. In the end of this section, we will work with the layouts and the grid system. Designing form components. In this video, we will design web pages using the form components that Bootstrap Vue provides. Let's start by creating a new form component. Now let's import this empty form component in our root component, that is app.vue. Let's remove the default ones. Let's go ahead and check in our browser. As you can see, we are able to see the output of the H1. This means the form component is properly loaded and rendering. Now let's start with utilizing the form components. Let's start by creating a div. I will provide a class form component. I will also add some scoped CSS for that class. Let's start by opening a form. To open a form, we will use form component, that is b-form. b-form have 5 properties. The first one is ID, which receives a string value. You can set it up anything you like. The second property is inline. The default value of inline is false, so you can set it to true, and your form will be displayed in one line. The third property is no validate. Its default value is also false. The last property is validated. Its default value is also false. You can set it to true, so the form will be validated upon submission. Let's start with a simple form. Another form component is b-form-input, which is used mostly for input types. The first property is ID. That receives a string value. Another property is type. where we provide the type of the input. In this case, I will be taking an email address. We can also set another property that is required. Declaring the required property in the form input will make this input mandatory. We can also provide a placeholder just by using the placeholder property. And lastly, I would like to use v-model to two-way bind the value of this form input. Now in my script section, return form element for email and initialize it with an empty value. Let's go to our browser and see how this looks. As you can see, we have an input field with a placeholder. I would also like to add some text above and below that will give some hint of this input. For that, I will create a group by using b-form-group. Here I will introduce a new property that is label. The label receives a string value that will be displayed on top of that input. We can also bind with the ID of the form input by using the label-for property. We can also add a description line below the input form by using the description property. Make sure to close the form group after the input. Now let's go to our browser and see how this looks. Now I would like to create a submit button. For that I will use b-button with the type submit and a variant of primary. I would also like to create a reset button. Its type will be reset and variant will be danger. Here I will use add submit property in the form opening. Upon submitting this form, it will trigger onSubmit method, and at reset, it will call onReset method. Here in my script section, I will create two of these methods. First, I would like to prevent the default submission of the form, and then use alert and JSON stringify this form. And on reset, here I will reset our form values. As my form have only email, I will reset its value to empty. Let's go to our browser and see how it looks. And on clicking the reset, the input field is reset to the value empty. Another form component is form checkbox. Let's create a group for it first. To use checkbox, I will first have to create a checkbox group by using b-form-checkbox-group. Let's bind this value to form.check. Now I will create the checkboxes by using the b-form-checkbox. The value property receives string. Now let's go to our script and create form.checked form element. Checked will be an array, as we have multiple checkboxes. We will also update our reset method. Now let's go to our browser and see how this looks. Another form component is select. For select group, I will use label, food, and bind the label to an input. Now let's create the select input. I will bind the value of food in the form elements. Here I will use options. I will also mark this as required. Now in my script section, I will initialize food. And then outside form, I will initialize the array of the foods that will be displayed in the select dropdown. The first option of the dropdown will say select one, and its value will be null. Similarly, I will update our onReset method. Now let's go to our browser and see how this looks. and our validation for required works as well. Another form component is form radio. For form radio, we will use b-form-radio, bind its value to selected, and value property of a string. Under the script section, we will declare selected. That is it for this video. In the next video, we will be designing a landing page for a web application. Designing a landing page for a web application. In this video, we will design a landing page by utilizing the Bootstrap and Vue. So let's start by creating a home component. Add an empty template. Let's also import it to our app.vue root component. Once imported, we can go ahead and update the template. Let's start by creating a header row. I will name the class header-row. Inside this row, I would like to use two columns, one for the logo and one for the sign-up and login controls. Here I have created two buttons with the variant primary and provided two different classes as a login button and a sign-up button. Now let's go to our styling and add some styling. I would also like to add a class to this column. I will start with giving styling and some background color to the header row class. Similarly, I will also create a footer using the Bootstrap row. In here, I will only create one column. Inside this column, I will utilize these later on and connect them to an anchor tag, but for now, I will just display them in a paragraph. Similarly, I would like to have the same background for the footer. Now coming to the second column, controls, I would like to align the text of these buttons to the right side. And for the footer controls, I would like this text to be centered and with a margin top of 10 px. I would like to give some margin to the login and sign up button as well. Now let's go to our browser and see how this looks. As you can see, the logo color is green. We will need to fix that. And we can add some break rows to identify the header and footer rows as separated. Now once the header and footers are set, as this is a landing page, I would like to use a carousel. I will copy a carousel from the Bootstrap Vue documentation. Under the components, we have carousel. Let's utilize this first one. Before I use a carousel, I would like to create a container, as I do not wish to use the complete width of the page, so the container will contain it in the middle with some margin to the left and right. We will go into the more details of carousel later down the course. Next, I would like to use some cards to display the data in the form of widgets. Let's go back to the documentation and copy a sample of a card. Let's create a column and a row and utilize this card. As the maximum width of the column is 12, so 2 cards or 4 cards will look even. Let's go to our browser and see how this looks. By using the Bootstrap components, you can very quickly set up a landing page for your web page with simplicity and elegance. That is it for this video. In the next video, we will be utilizing the table, tabs, and progress components. Utilizing tables, tabs, and progress components. Let's start by creating a new component and start implementing tabs. I will use the template that we created in the home component and get rid of the container. Here I would like to have tabs on the left side under the logo, so let's go back to the Bootstrap Vue documentation and fetch a vertical tab. Here in this vertical tab, we are using B card with no body, and tabs receives a pill variant that will display the pill style variant. Similarly, the tab will be shown as a card and will be aligned vertically. By opening the B-tab, providing the title will display the text in the tab, and by providing it an active property will mark it as active with a blue background. Inside B-tab, we will use B-card text that will display the content when the tab is selected. If you want to change the size of the tab, you will have to provide the end prop. You can also give animation and add custom content to the tab title. So to add a custom content to tab title, we will use a template with slot title, and inside that template, we will use B-spinner with a type such as grow or border and the size small, medium or large. Now for displaying tabular data, we will use B-table which supports pagination, filtering, sorting and custom rendering. B-table have properties such as ID that receives a string and items that receives an array. Now in our script section, we will have to define an items array. Now let's go to our browser and see how this table looks. We can also add stripped and hover props. We can also provide a row variant. As you can see, the third row have a background color of red, which is associated with the danger variant. Similarly, we can also provide a cell variant. A cell variant is an array which can receive a variant type for each cell of that specific row. We can also use a fields prop. Fields prop is used to customize the table column headings and in which order the columns of data are displayed. Fields can be simple array for defining the order of the columns and which columns to display. So now in my script section, I'll introduce fields. So the order that I have set here is the order that will be displayed on the browser. As you can see, the first name is the first column now. Fields can also be an array of objects, providing additional controls over the fields such as sorting. Now you can see the first name column is sortable. Now coming to progress component. For that we will use b-progress. It receives a value prop. Let's call it counter. We can also set a maximum value. We will set the show progress and animate it to true. Now let's go to our script section and define maxim and counter value. Now let's go to our browser and see how this looks. As you can see, we are displaying a progress bar with a length of 100 and a progress of 45. That is it for this video. In the next video, we will be working out with layout and the grid system. Working with layout and grid system. In this video, we will learn how we can utilize the grid system of Bootstrap-Vue to create a responsive layouts. Bootstrap-Vue uses the powerful mobile-first Flexbox grid to build layouts of all shapes and sizes. It uses a 12-column system, 5 default responsive tiers, CSS sass, variables and mixins, and dozens of predefined classes. Bootstrap's grid system uses a series of containers, rows and columns to lay out and align content, is built with Flexbox, and is fully responsive. Let's try out an example. I will start by declaring a container. Inside a container, I will define a row. And inside a row, I can define columns. Each column have a maximum width of 12. Now let's go to our browser and see how this looks. Here container provides a mean to center your site's content using b-container for fixed width, and if you wish to utilize all the width, you can provide it with a fluid prop. Rows are a horizontal group of columns that ensure your columns are lined up properly. Bootstrap used the negative margin method on b-row to ensure all your content is aligned properly. Down the left side, content should be placed within columns, and only columns may be immediate children of b-row. Width of the columns are automatically adjusted with the width of the row. Let's remove one column from the upper row. In case you want to use a larger width for one of the columns, you can provide it a fixed call by using the calls prop. Using a single set of small breakpoints, you can create a basic grid system that starts out stacked on extra small devices before becoming horizontal on desktop devices. Let's go to our browser and see how it looks. On the mobile devices, the columns are stacked. You can also change the order of the columns by providing an order prop. You can offset grid columns responsively by using the offset hyphen the breakpoint. For the first column, I will set a medium breakpoint with the value of 4. Similarly, for the second column, I will add an offset of 4. As you can see that the second column is now moved to the third position, and the second position is remained vacant due to the offset. With the move to flexbox in Bootstrap v4, you can use margin and spacing utility classes like mr-auto to force sibling columns away from one another. By providing margin bottom to the row and providing padding with a value of 3 and also giving the info background color. Similarly, margin left is set to auto and the padding is set to 3 for the second column. Let's go to our browser and see how this looks. That is it for this video. In the next section, we will be designing with Bootstrap-Vue directives. Designing with Bootstrap-Vue directives, Section 3. In this section, we will start with Bootstrap-Vue popovers. We will also learn how we can use scroll spy to spy on container elements. In this section, we will also learn how we can create custom tooltips in Bootstrap-Vue. By the end of this section, we will learn how to render router links and understand the spacing classes. And finally, we will learn some third-party form validations and how can we use them with Bootstrap-Vue. Bootstrap-Vue popovers using Bootstrap v4 CSS for styling and animations. In this video, we will utilize the popovers with Bootstrap v4. Let's start by creating a new component. I will utilize the template we created in Home and get rid of the body. We will use v-b-popover directive on any element or component where we would like a popover to appear. For example, let's have it on a button. Let's go to our browser and see how it looks. As you can see, we have a button that states hover me, and when hovering the mouse over it, it shows a popover with a title and a content. Remember, zero-length title and content values will never show a popover. 12 options are available for positioning the popover. Those are top, top left, top right, right, right top, right bottom, bottom, bottom left, bottom right, left, left top, and left bottom. Let's copy an example from the documentation. So by providing .top, .right, .left, and .bottom, we can position the popover relative to the button. Popovers can be triggered via any combination of click, hover, and focus. The default trigger is click. If a popover has more than one trigger, then all the triggers must be cleared before the popover will close. As we can see from this example, where we can also provide hover and focus, but to remove the popover, both of the trigger must be cleared. There are several options for provisioning the title and content of a popover. By default, popover will use the title attribute of the element as the popover heading. And then the content is passed as a string to the v-b-popover directive. The title and the content can also be passed as an object. That is it for this video. In the next video, we will have an introduction to Scroll Spy and how it works. Introduction to Scroll Spy and how it works. In this video, we will learn how we can automatically update Bootstrap navigation or list group components based on a scroll position to indicate which link is currently active in the viewport. Let's start by creating a new component. Let's go to the Bootstrap Vue documentation and look at an example. In this example, we are using b-nav to create a navigational header. Inside that nav, to create a hyperreference. In href, we will provide the ID of the header. We will also introduce addClickListener that will trigger scroll into view method. Looking at the scroll into view method, first of all, we will prevent a default action. Then we will extract the value of the href with comparison to the href constant value. We will create a constant element. If an element is found, we will update the $reference content of the scroll top to the offset of that element. Scroll Spy requires position relative on the element you are spying on using the body. Anchors such as b-nav-element or b-dropdown-element are required and must have an href that points to an element with the ID in the container you are spying on. As in this example, we have ID fat and is spying on h4. When successfully implemented, your nav or group list will update accordingly, moving the active state from one item to the next based on their associated targets. Let's go to the browser and see how it looks. So by clicking on the fat, the focus is set to the heading with the ID of fat. By clicking on MDO, the focus is now at MDO heading. Similarly, we can use the drop-downs as well to spy on the body elements. That is it for this video. In the next video, we will be adding custom Bootstrap Vue tooltips. Adding custom Bootstrap Vue tooltips. Tooltips can be triggered by hovering, focusing, or clicking an element. We will use v-b-tooltip directive on any element or component where we would like a tooltip to appear. Let's see an example. Here in this example, I am using v-b-tooltip over a button element, providing the title tooltip content. So hovering over this button will show a tooltip with this title. Let's go to a browser and see how it looks. Tooltips with the zero-length titles are never displayed. So title length is mandatory. Also, it is not possible to trigger tooltips on hidden elements. We can also position the tooltips by providing the position such as right. Similarly, we can provide left, bottom, and the corresponding top and bottom for each position. Tooltips can be triggered via any combination of click, hover, and focus. The default trigger is hover. As you can see, without providing any trigger, the hover trigger is considered default. If a tooltip has more than one trigger, then all the triggers must be cleared before the tooltip will close. Now that I have triggered both click and hover by removing the mouse, the tooltip does not disappear unless I remove the click focus as well. You can also provide the title without specifying it specifically. You can also use HTML data in the tips message. As you can see, the message is displayed as an HTML. We can also utilize methods to render the text of the tooltip. Here in this tooltip, I am calling a tip method, which is returning the latest time and date. Let's go to our browser and see how this looks. That is it for this video. In the next video, we will get into router support, spacing classes, and form validations. Router support, spacing classes, and form validations. Several Bootstrap-Vue components support rendering router-link components compatible with Vue router. In this video, we will be using b-link component to render router links. b-link is the building block of most of the Bootstrap-Vue's actionable components. You could use any other component that support link generation. Let's see an example. This will create a router link to home. In another word, it renders to an anchor tag. Let's go to a browser and see if it works. As you can see, we have an anchor tag home, and by clicking it, we have changed our route to /home. We can also bind this to a JavaScript expression using v-bind. Now we can use home in our script to define the path. We can also define v-bind as an object. We can also utilize the name of the path and send parameters. We can also send query data. As you can see in the URL, we are now sending plan equal to private as a query to register. Setting replace prop will call a router.replace instead of router.push when clicked, so the navigation will not leave a history record. Bootstrap v4 CSS includes a wide range of shorthand responsive margin and padding utility classes to modify an element's appearance. It assigns responsive and friendly margin. For validations, name is required or a subset of its sides with shorthand classes. Let's create a Bootstrap row. The classes are named using the format. First is the property, such as margin or padding. For margin we will use M. M for padding we will use P. Then we have sides. For top we have T. For bottom we have B. For left we have L. For right R. For classes that set both left and right we will use X. For the classes that set both -bottom -top we will use Y. After that there's a hyphen and then the size. Size starts from 0 to 5. Let's go to our browser and inspect the CSS that is attached with this class. Here is our row with class empty3. In the style you can see that the margin.top is set to 1 rem, representing empty-3. Bootstrap-Vue does not include form validation by default. We leave that up to the many existing form validation plugins. One of them is a Vue Validate. Vue Validate provides simple, lightweight, model-based validation for Vue.js. To install Vulidate, we will use npm install vulidate -- save. Once the package is installed, we can head back to the documentation and copy an example. For this example, I will import required minimum length and between from the Vulidate that I just installed. I will create two form inputs, input 1 and input 2. Input 1 will require a name. The second input will be of age. In my script section, I will create two elements, name and age. For validations, the name will be required and allowed a minimum length of 4, and for age, the validation is between 20 and 30. When typing the name, the setName method will be triggered, executing the validation set with the name. Similarly, setAge method will be executed by changing the age input. Let's go to our browser and see how this looks. By typing the name, the validation tells me name must have at least 4 characters. Similarly, the age will give me a validation error until I provide the correct age. That is it for this video, and this brings us to the end of this course.